I always thought blood was thicker than water, until the day my sister betrayed me in the worst way possible. She stole my $2 million inheritance, left me with nothing, and laughed in my face. But karma? Oh, karma had other plans. And when the lawyer finally revealed the truth, let's just say she never saw it coming. Growing up in Brooklyn, the Morgan family was the envy of our neighborhood. A sprawling brownstone, a Mercedes in the driveway, my father's name on half the real estate signs in the borough. From the outside, we had it all. But inside those walls, we were a house of cards just waiting for the right gust of wind to send everything crashing down. My father, Robert Morgan, was the kind of man who commanded a room without saying a word. Sharp suits, sharper tongue. He built his empire from nothing, and he never let us forget it. "Money doesn't sleep, Emily," he'd say, tossing the Wall Street Journal onto the breakfast table like it was scripture. "And neither do the people who want to take it from you." My mother, Eleanor, was beautiful in that polished, untouchable way. Pearls at breakfast, Chanel No. 5 lingering in the air long after she'd left the room. She wasn't cold, exactly. Just absent. Like she'd already checked out of our family years ago and forgot to tell the rest of us. Then there was Lily. Lillian Morgan, my younger sister by 3 years, was the kind of pretty that made people lean in when she spoke. Golden curls, a laugh like wind chimes, and a smile that could convince a priest to hand over the collection plate. From the time she could talk, she had a way of wrapping everyone, especially Dad, around her finger. "Lily's just spirited," Mom would say when I complained about her stealing my clothes, my jewelry, my birthday presents. "Lily's got ambition," Dad would chuckle when she talked her way out of grounding. And me? I was the responsible one. The one who made sure Dad took his blood pressure meds. The one who kept track of Mom's charity luncheons. The one who stayed up late proofreading Lily's college essays while she was out partying. I told myself it didn't matter. That family was family. But then Dad got sick. Pancreatic cancer. Fast and brutal. One month he was closing a multi-million-dollar deal. The next he was wasting away in a hospital bed. And guess who was there every single day? Changing his IV bags, reading his financial reports aloud when his vision blurred? Not Lily. Oh, she showed up once, in a designer dress and heels reeking of champagne. "Daddy, you look terrible," she'd gasped, like his illness was some personal slight against her. He'd asked her to stay, to talk, but she'd kissed his forehead and breezed out, promising to visit again soon. She never did. The night he died, it was just me holding his hand. His last words? "Watch out for your sister, Em. She's always been clever." At the time, I thought he meant it as a warning to protect her. Turns out he was warning me about her. Because 3 days later, at the will reading, I found out exactly how clever Lily could be. The lawyer's office was all dark wood and leather, the kind of place that smelled like money and secrets. I sat stiffly in one of the oversized chairs, my black dress sticking to my legs in the late summer heat. Lily had chosen the seat closest to the window, the sunlight turning her hair into a halo. She looked like an angel. I should have known better. Mr. Callahan, Dad's attorney for 30 years, cleared his throat as he adjusted his glasses. His hands shook slightly as he unfolded the document. I remember thinking how strange it was. This man who'd never shown an ounce of nerves in all the dinners at our house, now looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "I'll keep this straightforward," he said, his voice too loud in the quiet room. Robert was very specific in his final wishes. Mom wasn't there. She'd taken a Xanax and checked into a spa in Vermont the morning after the funeral. "I can't deal with the vultures circling," she'd said, meaning Lily and me. The first part of the will was standard. Charitable donations, the house to Mom, the vacation property in the Hamptons to be sold. Then Callahan got to the part that mattered. The remainder of the estate, totaling $4 million after taxes, is to be divided between my daughters, Emily and Lillian Morgan. I exhaled. This was fair. This was right. Then Callahan kept reading. "To my daughter Lillian, I leave $3,800,000. To my daughter Emily, I leave $200,000. The air left my lungs like I'd been punched. A beat of silence. Then Lily's sharp intake of breath. Not surprise, but triumph. I turned to see her pressing her lips together, fighting a smile. That can't be right, I heard myself say. My voice sounded far away. Callahan wouldn't meet my eyes. The document is clear. Lily finally let the smile break through. Dad always said you were bad with money, Em. Guess he wanted to make sure I could take care of both of us. Her tone was syrup sweet, the way she used to sound when we were kids, and she'd stolen my favorite doll but swore she was just borrowing it. I stood so fast my chair screeched. This isn't what Dad wanted. He told me, what? Lily arched a perfect eyebrow. That his favorite would get taken care of? The words hit like a slap, because that's exactly what Dad had said to me just last month when I'd driven him home from chemo. You've always been my rock, Em. I'm making sure you're taken care of. Callahan was speaking again, something about probate and timelines, but all I could hear was the blood roaring in my ears. Lily was texting someone, her manicured nails tapping against her phone screen, probably ordering champagne. Then I saw it. A glance between Callahan and Lily. Quick, barely there. But I'd spent a lifetime watching my sister manipulate people. The way she'd tilt her head just so when lying to our parents, the fake tears she could summon on command. This was the same look she'd given the notary public when she forged my signature on a parking ticket years ago. My hands went cold. You changed the will. It wasn't a question. Lily's smile didn't waver. Careful, Em. Defamation lawsuits are expensive. She stood, smoothing her skirt. Though I guess you can't afford one now, can you? Callahan finally spoke up. Emily, if you have concerns, there are legal channels. I'll be taking Dad's Rolex, Lily announced, cutting him off. It's in the safety deposit box. The one at Chase, not the one at Citi. How did she know that? Dad only told me about the second box 2 weeks before he died. Said it held insurance. Lily was already walking out, her heels clicking a victory march across the hardwood. At the door, she turned back, her face suddenly solemn. Oh, and Emily? Don't bother contesting this. Dad's signature is perfect. The way she said it, too deliberate, too practiced, sent ice down my spine. Because that's when I knew for certain. This wasn't just betrayal. It was theft. The second time I walked into Callahan's office, everything felt different. The wood paneling that had once seemed imposing now looked cheap under the fluorescent lights. The leather chairs weren't luxurious, just worn. And the air didn't smell like money anymore. It smelled like sweat and fear. I'd spent 6 weeks gathering evidence, 6 weeks of sleepless nights digging through Dad's files, tracking down witnesses, and paying a forensic document examiner out of the last of my savings. The private investigator's invoice still burned in my purse. $15,000 I couldn't afford, but couldn't afford not to spend. Lily was already seated when I arrived, wearing a cream-colored suit that probably cost more than my car. She didn't bother looking up from her phone. I told you this was a waste of time, Emily. The will is valid. I set my briefcase on the table with a thud that made Callahan jump. We'll see. The lawyer adjusted his tie. His forehead glistened under the office lights. Now, Emily, I understand you're upset, but I'm not upset, I said, clicking open the briefcase. I'm prepared. I laid out the evidence one piece at a time, watching Lily's smirk fade with each document. First, the security footage from the bank the night before Dad died. Lily entering the safe deposit vault alone at 9:47 p.m. Then the notary's sworn affidavit admitting she'd backdated documents under pressure. Finally, the forensic report showing Dad's signature on the contested will didn't match his handwriting samples from the month before his death. Lily's manicured fingers dug into the armrests. This is ridiculous. Daddy was sick when he signed that. Of course his signature looked different. Funny, I said, pulling out the last document. Because according to his oncologist, Dad was in a coma that whole week. The room went dead silent. Callahan's pen clattered to the floor. Lily's face drained of color. I could practically see the calculations running through her mind. How much jail time for fraud? For forgery? Then something unexpected happened. Callahan stood abruptly. I need to make a call. He practically ran from the room, leaving the door ajar. Through the gap, I saw him pull a key from his pocket and unlock a filing cabinet marked Morgan Confidential. Lily noticed too. Her breath came faster. Emily, listen. No. My voice surprised me with its steadiness. You listen. That money wasn't just Dad's. Half of it was Mom's from her family. And you were going to leave her with nothing? Before she could respond, Callahan returned, holding a single envelope. His hands shook as he opened it. Robert gave me this a year ago. Said to only read it if there was a dispute. The room tilted as he read aloud. If any beneficiary contests the distribution of my estate, or if evidence emerges of tampering with this will, my entire estate shall pass to the uncontesting beneficiary. Furthermore, any party found to have committed fraud shall forfeit all inheritance. Lily made a sound like a wounded animal. That's not... He wouldn't... But Callahan wasn't done. He turned the page, his voice growing stronger. There's more. To my daughter Lillian, if you're hearing this, you've proven exactly what I feared. The money was never the test. The will was. The air left my lungs. All those late-night talks with Dad about Lily's borrowing from his wallet, her habit of forging permission slips. He'd known. He'd known all along. Lily shot to her feet, her chair screeching. This is bullshit. Dad loved me. He loved you enough to try to teach you one last lesson, I said quietly. Callahan adjusted his glasses. Under these provisions, Lillian, you forfeit your entire inheritance. The full $4 million passes to Emily. The silence that followed was so complete I could hear Lily's Cartier watch ticking. Then, with a scream of rage, she hurled her phone at the wall, shattering the glass. You've ruined everything. Spittle flew from her lips. I had plans. I have debts. The truth hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just greed. She'd been desperate. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Callahan cleared his throat. There's one more thing. He slid a small key across the table. Robert left this for you, Emily. Safety deposit box at City. Lily froze. That's not one of ours. No, I said, pocketing the key. It's mine. As I walked out, Lily's screams followed me down the hall. Not the dramatic, performative kind she used to get her way, but raw, ugly sobs. The sound should have been satisfying. All I felt was tired. The war was over. I'd won. So why did it feel like we'd both lost? The safety deposit box held two things: a stack of $100 bills bound with a rubber band, and a handwritten note in Dad's familiar scrawl. For emergencies only. Love, Dad. I laughed through the tears pooling in my eyes. Even from beyond the grave, he was still looking out for me. The cash totaled $50,000, enough to cover the investigator, the legal fees, and still have plenty left over. Typical Robert Morgan, always playing chess while the rest of us played checkers. I expected to feel triumphant when the funds cleared. Vindicated. Instead, I found myself sitting alone in Dad's study at 3 a.m., swirling bourbon in his favorite glass, staring at the family portrait above the fireplace. We looked so happy frozen in that moment. Lily's arms draped over my shoulders, Dad's proud smile, Mom's perfectly coiffed hair. All lies. The money didn't fill the hollow space Lily's absence left. 28 years of inside jokes, of whispered secrets under shared blankets, of knowing glances across crowded rooms. Gone. She'd blocked my number, changed her address, and according to mutual friends, moved to the Caymans with some hedge fund manager she'd met weeks before the will reading. Mom surprised me most. When I told her what happened, she simply sighed and said, I always wondered when Lily's chickens would come home to roost. No shock, no outrage, just weary acceptance that made me wonder how long she'd seen this coming. I donated a quarter of the inheritance to the cancer ward where Dad spent his final days. The administrator cried when I handed over the check. "This will buy so much morphine," she said. The irony wasn't lost on me, using Lily's stolen money to ease the suffering of others. Then the letters started arriving. Not from Lily, I never heard from her again, but from creditors. Turns out my sister had debts even the $3.8 million wouldn't have covered. Loan sharks, casino markers, a lawsuit from some poor sap she'd swindled in a fake real estate deal. For months, my doorbell rang with processed servers bearing subpoenas until my lawyer finally convinced the courts I wasn't liable for her messes. I kept waiting for the anger to fade. It didn't. It just changed. One rainy Tuesday, I found myself standing outside Lily's old apartment building, watching through the steamed windows of a cafe as a young woman braided her little sister's hair. The way she tucked a loose strand behind the girl's ear. So familiar, it physically hurt. That's when it hit me. I didn't miss her. I missed who she was before the money, before the betrayals, before we became cautionary tales for each other. The last time I saw Dad conscious, he gripped my hand with surprising strength. "Blood isn't just shared DNA, Em," he'd whispered. "It's spilled, too." At the time, I thought it was the morphine talking. Now I understand. I sold the brownstone, let Mom keep the Hamptons place, bought myself a modest loft downtown with no ghosts in the walls. Some nights, when the wind rattles the fire escape just right, I still catch myself turning to share a joke that only Lily would appreciate. The inheritance bought me freedom, security, a future. But at the family reunion I'll never have, in the memories I can't rewrite, there's always an empty chair where my sister should be. And no amount of money will ever fill it. Want more jaw-dropping family drama? Smash that like button, subscribe for weekly stories, and turn on notifications so you never miss a twist. Comment below. Would you have forgiven Lily